I am going to show you some places you must visit on your trip around Iceland. My name is Carl, I'm a native Icelander. Let's go! This is our itinerary, however you say that word. There are no stops there. This is not because there is nothing to see there, this is just because we have been there on so many occasions before, and because some of it is in the middle of the ocean. I will cover this area in more detail in other videos, so make sure you subscribe. Let's start the journey with a short but a worthwhile trip around the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, the home of Iceland's only serial killer and a melting glacier. For a mere 200 krona you can taste water carbonated naturally. It tastes like toothpaste. Disgusting! This is where Iceland's only serial killer lived in the 16th century. He killed travelers for their possessions. It's a guest house now. Welcome? Have you ever wanted to walk into a big wet crack? That could be worth it. Then Rauðafellsgjá is the gorge for you. Just make sure you read the folklore surrounding it. It's about a 20-minute hike from the road. Bring waterproof shoes like we meant to and enjoy the view on your way back. Arnarstapi is like one of those towns from the kids' adventure movies. Grab a coffee and head out for an easy hike to Garðklettur. The hike to the hole in the ground is just as impressive as the destination. It has a number of impressive stops along the way, including Stone Bridge, but be careful not to fall in. We stopped at Laugarbrekka just to admire the view. There is a little art piece there dedicated to Guðríður Þorbjarnardóttir, born in 980. She went on 8 sea voyages. I have been on 0. I once got seasick on my way to Westman Islands while the ship was still tied to the dock. Speaking of ships, Djúpalónssandur is a large black sand beach with massive waves. On the beach there is the remains of the fishing trawler Apine from Grimsby. It wrecked there in March 13, 1948. You can get the details in Hnjótur Museum in the Westfjords. More about that later. The pathway down to the beach is very Instagram friendly. This guy is not. Skarðsvík is a beautiful red beach which will tempt you to take your shoes off. And it has a cave. But don't go in there, it's full of poop. If you get caught doing your business in there, be prepared to eat your own. At this point the day is almost over, so we headed to one of the most beautiful towns you will ever find, called Stykkishólmur. We went to bed and watched the mediocre movie Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which is partially set in Stykkishólmur. There are plenty of places left to explore on the way, and we have not even covered all the stops on the itinerary, however you say that word. So stick around for the Westfjords, coming up. Auto landed. Where are you? Silly drone. Watch out for the wind. God damn it. Westfjords are like a country of their own. Some skip them because of the distances you need to drive. They are vast, and the roads are not always great. But if you have the time, you must go to the Westfjords. Our first stop in the Westfjord is the Witchcraft Museum in Hólmavík. It has a nábrók on display, or necropants. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's a pair of pants made from the skin of a dead man. It's an excellent museum highlighting how our ancestors were into witchcraft wholeheartedly. And they have great coffee, recommended 100%. From Hólmavík, we drive to Flókalundur. Flókalundur is like a fancy old folks home, except it has an awesome natural pool up the road. And yes, it's very small, but it's also free, and you can go into the ocean if you need more space. On our way to Hnjótur Museum, we saw this massive thing. It's not a shipwreck, it was put there on display. It's Iceland's oldest steel boat. I was not allowed to climb on board because it would only make me seasick. Hnjótur Museum is worth a stop. It's full of old farming and fishing crap. Outside is just as impressive. You can get details of the Apine shipwreck and the heroic rescue effort in a short movie inside. Don't buy a puffin in a puffin store, grab one here for free. You can just use a net. This is Látrabjarg. It's a bit of a challenge to get there, but it's worth it. It's the largest seabird cliff in Iceland and one of the westernmost parts of Europe. Usually, I won't make you sit through any more of my footage than you have to for me to get my point across. And when it comes to Red Sand Beach, it's really hard to leave out stunning drone shots or walkings on the beach. That is why I put this rant into the script, so I could show you more footage. There is a little road that will take you right up to the sand. Proceed with caution and remember, off-road driving is highly illegal and taken very seriously. Careful of the jellyfish, they are all over and they will sting you. Peeing on it will only get you a fine for indecent exposure. Our last stop for the day was the stunning town of Patreksfjörður. We had some delicious food at a restaurant with a gorgeous view across the fjord. And now for the cream of the crop, Dynjandi. It's hard to overstate how beautiful it is. My favorite waterfall in Iceland, bar none. You absolutely must take the 20-minute hike all the way to the top. No picture or video can do this experience any justice. There are many smaller waterfalls all the way to the top. There are many scary roads and places to stop. We did a few quick stops here and there, including Flateyri, which is a bit off track when you're heading to Ísafjörður, but worth it if you like stunning beauty. Ísafjörður is the largest town in the Westfjords. It's like most other towns in Iceland, absolutely gorgeous. It is barely touched by modern architecture and it has many great restaurants. These tourists chose this one. I can only assume it's very good. We sat by the dock and watched the sunset way early behind the large mountains overshadowing the town. I skipped so many places, but we made it over the Westfjords without driving off a cliff. Now to the north. If you are getting some value from this video, how about hitting that like button? Hvítserkur means white berserk. It is basically a rock in the ocean that looks like it's covered in bird poop. Perhaps that's how it got its name. I don't know, I'm not a geologist. It kinda looks like a dragon, I guess. Imagine you were a paranoid Viking hiding from the dragon you just saw in the ocean, and then you came across this place. This place is called Borgarvirki, or City Fortress. It's a natural fortress that likely formed during a volcanic eruption in the Ice Age. It has been altered somewhat by humans throughout the centuries. It has a rich history, which I highly recommend you read. The view up there is awesome. Our next stop was a rather unconventional one, but worth it. This area is littered with massive canyons and sketchy bridges. Glaumbær is a fantastic museum. It exhibits old crap from rural daily life in Iceland in the 18th and 19th century. The day we were there was very gloomy. The day was perfect to read about Sólveig from Miklabær. She is said to have haunted the manor in the 18th century because she was refused a burial in a proper graveyard. She eventually was buried in a graveyard in 1937, only after she had made the reverend disappear. A little too late if you ask me. Now I know I say this a lot, but this time I mean it. Hólar is the most gorgeous little town you will ever see. Here I found out that some Icelandic people still go to church on Sunday, even if there's no beer afterwards like in weddings. It is a place so rich in history that I could never do it justice. Lest you say that the good Christians of Iceland dragged the last remaining Catholic bishop south to Reykjavik and chopped off his head. Not because he was Catholic, but because he was being annoying Catholic. If you fancy a swim, make sure you stop off at Hofsós. The swimming pool has an excellent view of my finger.
This is the truth about this swimming pool. It is crowded and loud.
From there we drove to Siglufjörður, but not without stopping a few times to admire the beauty in the ever-changing landscape. We went there twice because I managed to forget the box I used as a landing pad for the drone. I realized in Siglufjörður, which is about 30 miles away. Now you know what I'm gonna say about Siglufjörður. The most never mind, you get the point. When this one guy in the year 1000 decided we should all be Christian now after a nap, he decided to symbolize his decision by littering Goðafoss with an idol of the old gods. Goðafoss means waterfall of the gods. It's one of Iceland's most famous waterfalls. Play Jæja Ding Dong is probably the only thing you will hear in Húsavík, the home of Eurovision. We watched that movie there. I noticed this polite note to not go into the tower on my way down. I'm sorry, Jeebus. There is a beautiful lake just outside the town where you can get a great view. Ásbyrgi is said to have been formed when Odin's eight-legged horse Sleipnir touched one of his feet to the ground. I doubt that's true. I have never seen a horse with more than 5 feet. Ásbyrgi is the home of thousands of elves, if you believe cuckoo people. It is, however, not a myth how stunningly beautiful the cliffs are, and the valley is teeming with life. Hljóðaklettar are a number of cliffs and caves. The unique shapes echo sound in a strange way. I recorded the audio diligently on my camera only to find out when I got home that my microphone does not work with the camera. I guess you will just need to stop there and experience this for yourself. It is worth it, I promise. Dettifoss is said to be the most powerful in Europe. I am not sure how a waterfall rules a whole continent. It's a 15-minute hike from the parking lot, but it's definitely worth it. You can approach it from 2 sides. We came from the west. Mývatn is a planet of its own. I covered that in a separate video I suggest you watch after this one, so we move on. We are officially in the East of Iceland now, in the hottest new tourist destination in Iceland, Sturlagil. Careful navigating to Sturlagil while using Google. Google knows everything except the best route to Sturlagil. If you have ever logged on to Instagram, even for a second, you will have seen a photo of Sturlagil. There's a lot of driving in the east, but it's okay because everywhere you look, you will see something new and beautiful. Terrible roads high up the mountains are rewarded with the occasional viewpoint. We went to one of the most beautiful towns you will ever see, Siglufjörður. And this is the road that Walter Mitty skateboarded down. We were fooled into hiking up to this thing, an art piece that left us somewhat disappointed. Half an hour hike off the mountain, at least the view was great. We stayed the night at the Wilderness Center. I did a full review of it in another video, so we move on again. We are on the home stretch, the south, and here's a pro tip. The south is very dense in points of interest. You should consider going counterclockwise instead of clockwise like we did, because at this point we are very tired. It's okay for us, we have been here many times, so we kinda just powered through. I will do a deep dive into the south later, but here are our highlights from this trip. Jökulsárlón is insane! Suck on an iceberg. They are full of microbes, so you can get a disease from the ice age, probably. There is a bunch of other stunning glaciers. In fact, this whole area is one big glacier. Having seen about 1 million waterfalls by this time, we were not excited to hike to Svartifoss. It was very hot and the hike was about 45 minutes each way. We saw it. Great. We snapped a few pictures from afar and wobbled back to the car. Dverghamar is a nice picnic spot and it has some interesting folklore attached to it. Fjaðrárgljúfur has been renamed Bieber Canyon, I guess. A short hike from the parking lot. Tourists were making what looked like sheep paths all over, so we fixed it with this natural-looking scrap metal path. After seeing canyon after canyon, the whole circle, then this one appeared just mediocre at best, but still it's stunning. Hjörleifshellir is most famous for looking like that green slope from Star Wars. It is really cool and you can drive right up to it. I already did a short video on Vík, which I suggest you watch after this one, so we move on. We have a bunch of waterfalls now. Goðafoss is my favorite. I remember seeing it for the first time when I was a child. I thought it was just like in the cartoons. Perfect. I still do, by the way. Seljalandsfoss is a unique experience because you can go behind it. It is very wet and the path is not for everyone. It is very slippery and quite steep, so be careful. I fell there once on my back. It didn't hurt, but it was embarrassing. Speaking of embarrassment, I was however old I am when I shot this video when I found out about Gljúfrabúi. It's a waterfall right next to Seljalandsfoss, but it is much more interesting because it is inside its own canyon. It has a rock there that was probably designed for Instagram photos. I went way too fast, and that's even an understatement. I hadn't started a YouTube channel when I shot these videos. I shall have to go again with the sole purpose of making a video for you. So make sure you subscribe. I will add more in-depth videos about the various places I visit. So what place did you miss the most from this fast round trip around Iceland? Put it in the comment and I will try to include it in my next one. And make sure you share this video with everyone you're traveling with. Have a great trip!